have a quick guide that I'm going to give you guys on a lockdown deck that I've put together. The idea originally for this deck isn't mine. I've seen others play it. I've just adapted a few cards differently because I thought maybe it would suit better with the play, and I've been having some success with it. So you guys may enjoy this and kind of profit from this deck guide and get some ideas yourself. So the main idea for this guide in explaining how this deck works is basically we have our soldier units that we want to play in the first round. So basically all these units you see at the bottom here, good to go in the first round. And then our unitless cards, Tourney Joust, Assassination, these are the cards that we have here. We kind of want to play for the final round. It's also good to take the Cursed Knight here into the final round too, using its immunity ability. So the idea basically is in the final round we just want to use as much unitless cards as possible, let our opponent waste their cards because they have nothing to target, and then kind of pick them off one by one with, say, Blizzard or Cadaverine, timing that correctly and kind of chopping their units points down with Mastercraft Spear, Tainted Ale, or the Tourney Joust that we have down here too. So in the first round we have, if we're to go first, we've got Crystal Skull. The reason I put this here is for Magni Division card, get that up and going so it doesn't get locked. That's a pretty good way to open up. Also with our other card here, the Crossbowman, you can give the Veil to the Crossbowman too so it doesn't get locked, so you're using that ability, it doesn't stop working. Best way to open the final round is to use both of your spears on the field. Then you can throw down the Tainted Ale, throw your immunity card down, and then from there Blizzard is a good substitute for Cadaverine if that gets heat waved, because it usually does. So that's why the Blizzard card is in here, really, because I found often when you're playing this deck, you know, you can set up the Cadaverine really good, but you know, sometimes it just gets taken out by the heat wave, pretty much screws up your whole strategy. So I've got the Blizzard in here as a substitute. If that does happen, you can still manage that strategy and just use that with the initiative. Also can use your Yen to take out anything big, and the heat wave to take out any scenarios which I played. That's where I typically keep that for. Save the heat wave for a scenario if you anticipate that coming, or just another big unit. The only two units I'd take into the final round with this deck, as I said, our immunity unit here, transform it into immunity right away, and also the Usurper Officer. So it should give us like a decent amount of points really quick on the end, without getting touched ourselves, without having any units getting taken out in the meanwhile. With this deck, I find that the first round, it's usually quite a high win rate for it, fairly easily too. A lot of strong cards with our engine here. If we get the Crossbowman running, just playing soldier after soldier, the damage that adds on really multiplies over time. So the biggest thing for this deck is just timing the final round correctly. So knowing what kind of points of the units you want to chop them down to, knowing when to play the Cadaverine, just timing those things correctly is going to make a huge difference for your success rate with this deck. That's obviously something that you're going to gain with your experience and knowing the opponent's deck and their units, what to expect. The Blizzard card works really good most of the time. A bit of a downfall for it would be, say if you're versing Nilfgaard and they're playing spies, when they're spawning those spies on your side of the field, those 1 point spies, 2 point spies, because this destroys the lowest power unit, you're kind of going to lose value with this card. So I'd say if you're going up against Nilfgaard, look to use it in the first round. I wouldn't use it. I'd still use it for the last round, but save it when you see the opportunity. Don't wait on it too long. So, you know, sometimes the opponent will just open up with like a defender. Just use it right away, just to make sure you don't get stuffed up in some other way with this card. A lot of success with this card also versus Squirtle when they're playing their immunity units. Really catches them off guard, just completely wipes out any kind of immunity units they throw out that are untouchable, that they think couldn't get touched by anything. Like this card just really catches them off guard. You can check that out in my other videos. It's just a really sneaky play. The strongest performance this deck would have against a faction would be against Skellige. Main reason for that is they don't typically boost too much. Say if you're versing the Patricidal Fury deck, they don't really boost too much at all, so the unit's power is going to stay relatively the same, which makes it really easy to kind of line up the Cadaveran or the Blizzard. So you'll find versing Skellige, that will be the easiest deck to play against. As I said, Nilfgaard would be probably more of a harder one if they're running spies. Winning the first round is pretty much imperative with this deck. If you don't win the first, usually you'll lose, say if you get bled out into the second. This deck really plays best over a long third round, so do your best to win the first at all costs, I'd say, and it's going to give you the best chance to win the game overall. So pretty much in summary, first round typically pretty easy win with this deck. Very good to use this card here onto the Bowman in the first. Play your Magni Division card, get the engine going with the soldiers and the crossbowmen. Get a lot of momentum that way, and then just mulligan very effectively to take in your special cards, your unitless cards, into the final round. So you should have a fairly good amount of success with this deck. As you know, it's locked down, so it really takes a lot of the ability out of the opponent's strategy. Some opponents really rely heavily on their leader ability. For example, I was talking to someone about this deck and how it works, and I think it affects Syndicate pretty badly. Say if they're running off the Hordes strategy, because unless they've got some card which gives them profit, they can't really get the most out of their play. So it's pretty interesting to see how this lockdown ability can affect the opponent quite a bit, and you can capitalize on that. And some decks that are otherwise pretty strong, you would just see them looking kind of funny in the opening rounds. They'll just be playing kind of weak. That's how it will seem, even though they're pretty solid decks. So basically the top half of this deck that you see is what you want to take into the final round. So all these cards up here you want to take into the final, except this one here. Very good to play this in the first. Make sure you get that victory, but the rest you can pretty much use in the final round. Yennefer is a good card to carry in the first round too if you like. Say if you want to pick up a big unit that your opponent plays. Say if you're versing like a monsters deck and they play like an Egon or something like that, that's worth taking with Yen for you to use in the final round. But typically the only two units, as I said, would be our immunity card and the Usurper Officer. If you can't get one or the other, obviously use your common sense, and maybe you want to take Emperor Brigade in instead, just something to give us a decent amount of points to close the round with. So I hope this deck guide has been useful to you. It's just a brief one to kind of give you guys an update of the decks I'm developing. They are adaptations of other people's ideas. As I said, the original idea for this deck isn't mine. I have just swapped around a number of cards and put in my own kind of style to it to see how it goes. I have been having some fun and success with it, so I thought I'd share that with you. I will be doing these kind of quick deck guides for each deck that I develop, just to give you guys a good overall understanding of the play behind it. If you want an example of how this deck looks in play, I will add that in the description below so you can check that out. If you have any questions, or if you want to see kind of any videos in particular, or me go through anything, or if you want to see any more kind of like gameplay versus me giving commentary during gameplays or doing more deck guides, just let me know. Happy to do that. And please remember to like, comment and subscribe. It just helps me produce more content and develop the channel further. And as always, just want to say really appreciate all the support from everyone that's been with me so far from the beginning. And if there's any way I can help you, just let me know. Happy to help. Thanks a lot again, and hope to talk to you all soon. See ya.